My name's Schneiderjohn. I'm a plan check engineer at WC3. I'm also vice president for WC3. I've been working with them for about 12 years. I work internally, help train some of our teams, mostly in charge of our online academy. And a lot of it is just plan checking, working with staff, growing the next generation, and then also working in clients. I work in-house in a lot of cities. I've worked in-house in Berkeley, San Jose, Emeryville, Santa Clara, things like that. So staff augmentation is part of what we do. So I get to do that a lot. And the work that I get to do less than I used to, that I enjoy the most is the plan checking part of it.
Yeah. What do you love about plan check?
One of the best parts is that you are constantly getting new things. You can be looking at a restaurant, and then right after you're looking at a high rise, and then right after you're looking at something small like a bathroom remodel. So the variety I really enjoy. But also when you get a big project, you kind of just get lost into it, and you're going through either lists in your mind or you're chasing things down, and it's just the kind of getting to do the production part. And then the things that I enjoy the most are going through the plans, finding where things are wrong, trying to add some value to it. And by value, I either mean, like value in terms of life safety, something like that, or also, it's going to actually have an effect on how the design ends up coming out. You kind of feel like your fingerprints are on it a little bit when, we're not designers, so we're not making things that are out there. What we make is our comment letter, which is the tedious part, but the going through the plans is the more fun, entertaining part.
Curious, like in this industry, there's a lot of rigor and complexity that's in it. And I think just like a lot of problems or challenges with that. I'm curious, like, what are some of the biggest challenges that you see?
Good question. There are a lot of challenges. One of the biggest problems that I think I see is that the process is somewhat backwards, right? So if you're a developer or owner, and you want to develop a property, you purchase the property, you have carrying costs, you put up all this upfront money, you hire designers and architects, engineers, you go through the process of designing this. And by the time someone like myself who works in codes in jurisdictions gets involved, there is a lot of money and design that has gone into it. They're down the road. So one of the main challenges and pushbacks that we see is that people are, anything that we're calling out or asking them to do or changing has, costs, implications, and things like that. So a lot of the challenges are, I think that if we get involved earlier, or there was maybe, it could be a number of things, better knowledge on the design side, developer side, things like that, that some of those, changes that occur from what we're doing maybe can already be implemented into the design. Some other challenges are just lack of staff, lack of resources, unfunded mandates and things like that, and just a growing complexity. In my old office, we used to have a 1998 UBC, and it's like this big. And now we have the codes, and it's like the California Building Code Volume 1, Volume 2, and then there's a mechanical code, and it takes about this much space on a bookshelf. Obviously, there was other codes then too, but there's definitely a growing complexity in things that have been added through the years. I mean, if you even go just, 2 decades ago, there weren't energy codes. A decade ago, there wasn't Cal Green, which is essentially a sustainability code. So the growing complexity makes it so that there's more and more to know and more to look for, and there's not necessarily more time to look at it.
Why are codes necessary?
From my perspective, codes are necessary for safety, they're necessary for public health, and they're important and necessary for things like access to everything for persons of varying abilities. So, and then kind of like we just talked about, in addition to that, they help with energy and sustainability. And if codes are being implemented properly, they are hopefully helping in life safety part. One of the things that we tell people when we're training is that, like, when we're doing our job properly, nothing happens. Buildings don't collapse. You don't get, children falling or places where there aren't guards. You don't have nuisance tripping on electrical, things like that. So if you're doing it properly, it's not so rewarding, but hopefully nothing happens.
How do you see AI affect you and your teams day to day?
So Some of the main things are, I think there's maybe different branches that it's assisting in. One is like recall or finding something. So, if I'm using Ichi and I want to know where a code section is, and I don't have it by memory, I think it's helpful. So it's hard to maybe quantify how much time I would have spent or our team would have spent finding something. But I think being able to get like multiple code sections go through something like that is helpful. I think in a lot of different ways, it's starting to help with maybe mundane tasks that are very, they don't require maybe a thinker behind it. Like, does the sheet index match the plans in the set? Are there details that have references that are missing and things like that? So as it starts to get better at reading and seeing the plans, I think that we're trying to use it to help us reduce tasks that they're not the deep thinking code part of our job, but a part nonetheless.
As I understand, you have some newer, younger folks that have joined you using AI to help hopefully like expedite their education. How, if you had to just like gut sense, like how much faster or better do you think, or do you hope that it will be?
Yeah, so we have a new cohort that we train every year. We train some people. So they're entry level, just the ground level. And it's really, I think, mind-blowing to us to see how they're progressing. It's only even been a few weeks, but when you start, you don't know what you don't know. And being able to ask a question and then it recite a bunch of sections that you weren't even aware existed. I mean, if you go to a general person who's not involved in the code industry, they don't know what is regulated in a room and how many things that have code requirements for it. So the educational part is really important here. So that's different. How it saves me time is it, reduces tasks that I don't have to do myself. How it's helping them is it's helping us train them. So it's reducing time that we have to do training and it's showing them what they're doing. And then it can assist and be a co-pilot in helping write comments and things that in themselves are a little bit of an art or a style. So they don't have the experience to, write concise comments and things like that. So it's all over the board where it's helping. If I were to say a metric, I'm hoping it is going to be exponential. We'll be able to see as they go through their career where they are compared to how we've done this in the past. And we've hired and trained people for at least the last 15 years. About every year, we try and get a new batch of entry-level individuals, and they have varying experiences. And we now are 15 years down the road and see where they all are. I'm one of those people who was trained by our owner guy and started in his class, and I'll be a benchmark that other people can look at and compare in terms of years of experience.
One thing I'd love to ask you about is the purpose-built nature of Ichi and the trust component. So you're you're a very detail-oriented person. How do you trust these tools?
I would say the biggest thing that surprises me of Ichi is its accuracy, actually. I think that if you ask me before we used it, I might be one of the individuals who says, oh, we're always going to need a human to be involved in some of these things that require some interpretation, or you need to understand the intent in order to enforce it, that sort of thing. The code is a prescriptive document, and I think the vast majority of the low-hanging fruit of things we need to look at are prescriptive requirements. And having used Ichi and its brain that's focused directly on building, the trust that is built is that it's getting all those right. And then it's not only getting them right, because I know that it's right, but if the pilot didn't know that it was right, it has, you can recite code sections, it can send you to the code, so you can see for yourself and verify. So it's like this trust but verify type thing that I think just builds over time. And having used it for a while, it definitely, the trust builds up. But I would say its accuracy is its most surprising aspect so far for me.
I don't know anybody that has as much of an encyclopedic memory of codes as you. And it's really impressive. But you still say that one of the things that's interesting to you or impressive is that you learn new code sections that you didn't realize were part of those or part of that particular context before.
Yeah, I think that one of the main things is codes are changing, first off, and they're growing. And there's new codes that you're not involved in, and there's also more information that's coming out or different understandings of your intent. So you can know where a code section is and things like that. But on a lot of more non-prescriptive issues, that's kind of just the start of understanding where you need to go. And I think where I see AI right now is it can grab and compile a bunch of information that wouldn't be really easily accessible for you to pull together all at once. Information from, if I were to take an example, a generator, there's structural requirements, there's fire code requirements, there's mechanical requirements, there's hazardous materials involved. And to be able to pull those all together is like a learning section. You come across something that you haven't seen before, and then you realize that there was something that was regulating it that you either weren't aware of or has always been provided, and you don't know it wasn't there until you're looking at it for the first time, and now it's missing, and you're wondering, why was that always there, and all these other submittals. So yeah, it's a journey. What we do, and I think in a lot of professions, is this is a practice. There's no, I've reached the finish line and I'm a plan checker. We're all just practicing it. We're getting better. We're forgetting things, but hopefully we're learning and moving along in this practice throughout our career.
Yeah. Where you see, if you imagine like 5, 10 years down the road, how do you see AI changing the industry?
Improvement on the design side, not so much back and forth, where the path isn't upside down, to where they've done the design and then now they're having the code reviewers look at the code. They're up front in the softwares. The architects and engineers have the ability to be code experts at their fingers before it gets to the cities, before it's a problem. People who are out in the field before things get constructed can ask questions and get answers instead of being, this is how I've done it for 15 years, so I'm gonna just keep doing it this way. So it's hard to prophesize that far down the road, but we're at the precipice of a big change. And even just looking without that AI being in the field, the field has gone pretty far in 5 years.